Now, the workforce index for December was at a 44.6, which is a rather significant decline from 52.6 in November. One of the largest drops we've seen in the index. Well, I think the main reason for the decline was a drop in the number of unique job postings on AIM's CareerLink website. Now, as we've stated before, the workforce index is really a ratio between job placements on CareerLink and the state of Nebraska seasonally adjusted unemployment rate. The unemployment rate for Nebraska was at the lowest level that it's been all year, but it was such a sharp decline in the number of job postings that caused the workforce index to decline. Which industries were affected the most? All 15 of the 16 industry groupings that we tracked declined. Only law and public safety increased, and it was a very small or minor increase. Creighton University has several regional indexes that they use, and if we look at the Mid-America Business Expectation Index, that was down also during the month of December compared to November. On the other hand, the Nebraska, Creighton University's Nebraska Business Expectation rose slightly between November and December of this year. When you look at all three indices together, however, the Mid-America Index peaked in April of 2012. The AIM Workforce Index peaked in May of 2012, and the Nebraska, or Creighton University's Nebraska Business Expectations Index peaked in June. So all three of those indices were at their highest just before mid-year. Since that time, there's been a very choppy decline to the levels that we see now, all of which are now below the growth neutral level of 50.0. Well, it's certainly not a very strong indicator. There's been a lot of uncertainty in the last 6 months of this year. The uncertainty that has come from the election. There was uncertainty, economic uncertainty in terms of growth, not only national gross domestic product, but also European growth and other parts of the world. Global economies have slowed during the last part of the year. Also, the uncertainty relative to tax policy and fiscal policy as a result of the fiscal cliff discussions. To some extent that got resolved on the first day of January in terms of locking in some of the current tax rates and raising some for higher income individuals. And the government expenditures were frozen, and that's a debate in the next few months as we approach the questions relative to the national debt. So to some extent that uncertainty was eliminated here at the first of the year, but for the last 6 months, that whole tax policy question has been on the table and been a source of great uncertainty for individuals as well as business. Well, it's a general consensus among many economists that the next year is not going to be a terribly robust period of time in terms of our economic history. The general projections are the first half of the year will continue to be relatively slow, with some possibility the second half might see a little bit faster growth rate. But nobody's projecting robust growth rates. We're looking at the neighborhood of a 2% gross national product for the first half of the year. Now, what that means to the Midwest, on the by and large, the Midwest and the Nebraska area has served fairly well compared to the global economy and the national economy. Whether that will continue or not depends upon a variety of things, one of which will be agriculture. We've come through a drought year, and we've had very, very high commodity prices that have offset some of the reduction in production. But there's quite a lot of uncertainty yet in the agricultural community as to what lies ahead, particularly if this drought in this part of the western corn belt isn't relieved some by moisture this fall or spring, or this winter and spring.